How I implemented CHAMPS the first day of school, I had my students fill out the CHAMPS chart together in class. So if we were about to do a group work activity, we went through and I got ideas from the students about what the conversation would be like, what if they needed help, what they would do, what the activity was going to be, and had them fill it out themselves. So really the ideas about what they were supposed to be doing or weren't supposed to be doing was coming directly from them. So if they were breaking those CHAMPS procedures, just refer back to the CHAMPS procedures and say, hey guys, this is what we did, this is what we agreed on, why aren't we following this? Actually, a good question that has to do with that. You said something that I'm now realizing doesn't work.
Okay.
And it was funny. It was during my University of Louisville class this weekend that I considered this. And that in the past few weeks, I've been pretty negative in terms of trying to control kids' behavior. So if they're doing something wrong, I tell them, no, that's not right. You know, like do this, do that, but don't do this. You know. And I haven't really implemented a reward system yet. So I'm trying it tomorrow, actually. I'm going to implement a reward system because I haven't really been focusing on the good things they do. I tell them when they're wrong, but they have no reason to do good. They just have a reason not to do bad. So I'm going to start either using like a money system for individuals and then also PAT time, which is preferred activity time for group initiative. That's an idea actually from Fred Jones, which is a really famous book that all of us had to read this summer for our class at U of L. Well, you have to think of this before and how you're gonna set up your consequence procedure. But normally it's a line of things that you'll do. So if they mess up, if they are disobeying a rule for some reason, you go to the first step, which might be verbal warning. It might be take a break, which is another thing that Jefferson County Public Schools does, where you have a chair that's separate from the rest of the students, and it's a time for them to go and fix their own behavior and come back. It's kind of like a timeout, but we call it take a break so it doesn't sound like something like, because some of the kids sometimes think it's like a timeout. It's like elementary school and they feel kind of silly for doing it. But so it'll be like a line, and if after the warning they still do something, then it's take a break. If they still come back and are still doing that behavior, we'll move on to a buddy room, which is where you send the child to a different room to separate them from the community. Now that tends to stop the behavior right there, because to be removed from a community, whatever kind of community that is, in this case a learning community, is a pretty big deal. Kids don't want that. They don't want to be shunned from the community that they're in. So it tends to fix itself after that. But if it does go on, you then, at least in my school, so every school is different. But in my school, we give checks in a binder. There's a binder, and if they get a certain amount of checks, they get a detention. So the one thing that I've been figuring out also, and it's really funny because you hear a lot of advice. I mean, people that are watching this video are hearing all this advice from all of these teachers, but it's never gonna, like, you'll know it for when it happens, and then you'll think back to, you know, that advice you heard at one point, but you'll never fully understand it until you actually do it. So I'm now realizing, for example, like people tell you, one of the biggest pieces of advice is like, oh, be strict. Don't be too lenient with the kids. You know, make sure that you are, you're very consistent, and that, you know, don't smile until Christmas. Now, that some people do smile before Christmas and they work out fine. It just depends on the teacher, right? But I'm now realizing, just after having taught a couple weeks, every week, every day, I'm learning exactly what that means to be a firm teacher, to be a strict teacher, you know. But every single day I'm also learning about what it means to be a caring teacher, what it means to be an open-minded teacher, what it means to be a teacher that really cares about students learning. It's just like the little things. So, you know, you get a chance to say something nice about them, to compliment them at one point or another. I do realize that when it comes to behavior and not doing behavior, I tended to be pretty negative. But I have noticed after thinking about it that I have been pretty good at complimenting good work. So I've noticed that whenever I see a kid doing something well, I'll point out to them, hey, you did this really well. But not even just that simple, but get detailed about it. It's like, you did this step and this step and this step, and that is correct, and that's awesome. Just pointing out little things like that really motivates them and kind of shows that you care, because you're giving them detail. You're taking the time just to point out and think hard about exactly what they've done right. So.